Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Ragnarok. We're here at the finals, and we've already had game one between Tricked and Riddle. Tricked were able to take that one away in a very hard-fought 40-minute game moving into game two. We're going to have our eyes peeled for the draft. That's what we really want to look at. I'm sure you have some more to say about that.
Yeah, coming into this draft, I'm hoping that Riddle have come up with a couple of new strategies. I think the early Z pick, as you heard from my distaste before, was not the best into the that early on in the draft. I think it could have worked if they'd saved it a little bit more so he had more options coming into the mid and late game, but the Lissandra pick really did shut him down once they realized what they needed to do to come out ahead in these fights. Kassadar needs to cool down a little bit, I feel. He needs to prioritize peeling for the important
Can't
carries.
get much colder than ice. I mean,
Well,
he was Lissandra last game.
Yes, that is true, but he needs to get colder. He needs to chill.
I think he needs to fire up.
Fire
Make some
up.
plays.
As long as he fires up while peeling for his AD carry, that's fine.
All right. Well, in any case, guys, we are into the draft for this second game. Tricked banning away Callista and Malphite so far. We got Lulu on the other side. For Riddle, nothing too unusual or new coming out so far.
Surprised at the
Poppy Elise.
Malphite ban.
Yeah, I mean, the Malphite hasn't felt like the big deciding factor in the last couple of games we've seen it picked. But I guess they just don't want to deal with it. They are going to lock in Corki first pick. Kassadar getting that champion yet again.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Very powerful early rotation. He can work in a number of different compositions. Works well in team fights, works well in poke compositions. He has the package that can set up all sorts of plays. We saw a phenomenal play coming out from Kassadar earlier on with that package, which pretty much swung a team fight back in the favor of Tricked.
That was a beautiful play.
He is a very talented Corki player, and it doesn't really surprise me that Tricked to put so much value on it early on.
All right, so on the flip side, Riddle picking up Trundle and Graves. Now, the Graves pick we saw earlier on from Broxa, I believe. No, sorry, it was the people playing against it was Trick's opponents previously. And
Endurance.
That didn't really do too much. It was Endurance, yeah. But it is worth noting because we'd spoken to the coach of Tricked, and apparently Broxa loves Graves and does very strongly on it. So if it doesn't get banned away, he does tend to pick it. And as a result, Riddle don't want to allow that to happen.
So I would very much like right now for Riddle to hold on to their mid lane pick. That is what I would like. They don't need to pick it now. There is no need. They can see who they're playing against. It's a Corki, it's a Sivir. They know that Corki is in the middle lane. And the Azir into Corki matchup is fine, but you don't know what the core composition from TRC actually is. So you want to save your mid laner so that you can add as much value to your team as possible. You've already got the Graves, you've already got the Trundle. You have quite a strong split push presence threat. You have a beefy front line already, especially if you pair that up with the Braum. And now all you need is something to round this composition out. Maybe a bit of extra wave clear, maybe just you need a bit more burst damage. And I think this is a much smarter draft coming out from Riddle. They have a strong 2v2 bottom lane. They have a strong presence from the jungle. And that Trundle is going to scale it very nicely up in the top lane. So Riddle adapting very nicely coming into this second game.
All right, so we're seeing the first Nautilus of the semis and finals. And that's interesting given how much of a priority we thought it would be coming into this stage of the tournament. So that's going to be going the way of Tricked. They've also got the Gragas on their last rotation. So overall, pretty team fighty composition. They're going to be doing a lot of work in that regard. Riddle now have the final say about what's going to be picked up here. And riddle me this, Vedius, what's it going to be?
Riddle me this, riddle me that. I wonder what Riddle will be. I'm going to say something. It's got to be wave clear. The thing that, or not. Predictions on point once again. He is only hovering the LeBlanc, so. But we do know that Zandia, he likes to carry. He likes to have an impact. We saw in his games yesterday how he did play pretty hyper aggressively, and I do believe he actually played the LeBlanc yesterday. Yeah. And his over-aggression ended up backfiring quite a few times, but he was able to get back into the game. His flanks on that LeBlanc were phenomenal. For me, it is the big issue for Riddle. They don't have a reliable engage, nor do they have that much wave clear available in their composition. They do have the double AD carry. Graves does somewhat make up for that wave clear that they are somewhat lacking. It's not that bad overall, but overall, Tricked Esports, they have a frontline, backline teamfight composition. You have a very beefy frontline, and you're going to have the backline damage that you want to try and protect. And it's going to be frontline versus frontline unless LeBlanc can find those flanks, pick the target off, and then you win the fight with the numbers advantage. So expect strong vision control and pick potential to come out from Riddle.
All right, so strong vision control. You mentioned that.
Yes, I did.
It's not something we've seen a lot of from Riddle.
Not from either teams, actually, in the last game.
In the last game, certainly, not from either team. But historically for Riddle, it is something that they kind of struggle with. And I think they need to get on that in a big way in the upcoming game.
It's like, hey, how's it going, ladies? Anyway. I'm kidding. Anyway, so yeah, vision control, important. Stop. Vision control. In the last game in particular, Tricked Esports did not do a great job in the early game of setting up very much vision. Cassadar was doing a lot of roaming around, which I feel he needs to rein back a little bit more on this Corki. He did have a phenomenal impact in the series against Endurance, setting up a lot of plays around the map, and he was a large reason as to why they were able to come back in after Visility struggled in the early game. So I expect more standard matchups in this game. TLC, they want the fights, whereas Riddle, they want a little bit more picky picks and sort of catching them off guard.
All right, well, we are onto the rift for this second game, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tricked versus Riddle. Game 1 was extremely intense between these guys, so I expect nothing less for Game 2. Let's see what they decide to do at level 1. Didn't see a lane swap or anything too crazy last game, and I don't think we're going to see it again this time.
Doesn't seem that way, and this will be a great test to see if that was just a bad game for Mood. Maybe he wasn't quite in the right mood for Game 1. He was just warming up a little bit more. Now that he's had that opportunity to warm up on stage, you have to remember that they haven't had an opportunity to play on stage today. Tricked have had a great warm-up opportunity from having the opportunity to play against Endurance earlier on. So they're quite established to the stage, whereas Mood now, he's gotten the jitters out of his system. He's here in the final. This is Game 2, reset time, and maybe he can have a better performance against the Sivir, which actually looks like TLC might be going for the lane swap.
Yeah, they've decided to make this rotation very, very late, maybe to sort of deal with any early vision that comes in from Riddle. It's interesting that they're deciding to go for it. Finfin not quite able to clear out the ward, doesn't get the reset in time on that auto attack. But in any case, he's going to have to make his way into the jungle, help out Broxa. We are seeing Slemp, I think he's identified what's going on. He's going to help out Dipsy here.
So Flyner doing what he did against Endurance, where he's walking up to Riddle, and he's going to try and interfere with Riddle doing those early camp starts. And what he's going to try and do is buy time for TRC to rotate around and try and steal away this red buff. You can already see Tricked moving to set that one up, but Riddle have read this like a book. They realize what's going on, and they're not going to fall for the same trick that Endurance fell for in the semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that they have this ward in the river. They can obviously see exactly what Trick are doing, but they're not able to get the big Raptor, which is a little bit unfortunate. So potentially Broxa and Finfin going to pick that one up.
They should have just instantly gone for their blue buff. They realized that the top half of the map no longer belongs to them. They should just move to the wolves, take away the blue buff, take away the enemy red buff, and then set up for the push in the bottom lane. So it just demonstrates a bit of inexperience from Riddle in terms of how to set up the lane swap. But they should be able to, you can see them getting back into the flow of things now. So they might get to the turret a little bit late, but it shouldn't be that bad overall for Riddle.
All right, so we saw a good trade for Zandia in the middle lane during that little bit of analysis. He did a lot of damage. Didn't want to commit, though, with the Ignite, because obviously Cassadar can somewhat counter that by just exhausting Zandia when he goes in. And now the lane swap is starting to come into fruition with this tower push from both teams. Tricked and Riddle want to secure themselves a little bit of early global gold here.
They certainly do. This is very much a typical lane swap that we see all over the West. Very much a gentleman's agreement of, okay, junglers, you go do your thing. We're going to take each other's turrets, and then we're just going to be happy with the global gold. But what it really does is it sets up your AD carries to get a lot more free farm, and you're just going to tunnel a lot more gold into them. And given the buffs to Sivir, given how much of an impact she can have towards the mid and late game since the changes to a Ricochet, that's exactly what you want to do. In the last game, Visility was able to get the upper hand in the 2 versus 2. They didn't want to risk it again, and so by going for the lane swap, Visility is going to be in a much safer position.
All right, so Slemp could actually kill this wave in time, I think, if he wanted to, but he's not going to do it.
I think he should have the push off the back of that.
Yeah, I would imagine. So Broxa flash board misses Dipsy, but does burn that flash from him as well. So it's an equal trade there near the middle lane. Zandia wants to maybe keep the pressure going here. Broxa is slowed up by the red buff. Zandia's going to flash over that wall. You can't use that ability through the wall. So Broxa is going to be able to get away there. Very nicely played by him. Zandia quite low on mana for when he does come back to the lane, but Dipsy doesn't have the gap closer.
So Dipsy gets punished for his over-aggression, but they end up trading Flash for Flash overall. And then Zandia trying to pick up the kill. He tried to read the movements from Broxia, so he flashed over into the red pits, and it does not work out for him. So he ends up losing that flash, which means that he's not going to be able to apply as much pressure and maybe be as aggressive as he would like to. So we'll have to keep our eyes on the middle lane. That could be an opportunity that Kassadar could take advantage of. Right now, both the bottom lanes have swapped over, and they're going to look to try and, once again, take down these outer turrets.
Yeah, and obviously when both teams do it, it's not going to have too much of an impact on the game. The net difference between the teams won't be very big. But, you know, it's worth noting that maybe Lucian can hit a bit of an earlier spike here than Sivir with that gold.
The big thing that it gives to TRC is actually their positioning near the Dragon and Riddle's nearness to the Rift Herald. So with the Rift Herald, you can use it to actually take another tower here. So what they could have done is used Dipsy and Slemp to go and take the Rift Herald, while the bottom lane from Riddle just kept on pushing to the tower. And then by the time they had, you know, gotten another wave at the tower, they would have had the Rift Herald buff that would have set them up to go for another tower. They're going to try and go for it anyway, even without the Rift Herald, but I don't think they're going to make it in time. Finfin can just use that teleport, defend the tower, and the wave isn't big enough for him to be in any real danger.
All right, well, Riddle still want to chance it. They are going to be running right onto it. They've got 280 carries, basically, with Dipsy having some decent damage here. Trick not really responding yet. Turret's falling pretty slowly, though. There's only a few minions left. The next wave is quite far away. You've got the rotation coming in here from Broxa. Can they get there? It looks like they're going to be able to defend it. So Riddle, it wasn't completely wasted. That turret does not regenerate health, but they were unable to go the full distance and pick up the tower.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage down onto that tier 2 tower in the top lane that TRC, I felt, didn't have to give away. They valued the teleport over just walking back and the damage to the turret. Zandia taking a lot of damage, though.
Yeah, very nice juke by Kassadar to get away from that ethereal chains, but when he goes in, he misses the phosphorus bomb, so a big chunk of damage not there from Kassadar. He burned his exhaust. Zandia still has Ignite. Is an interesting trade.
Kassadar also level 6, helped him a lot in the trade, but he's actually taking a lot of damage.
Yeah,
I do believe, Zandia just hit that level 6 mark, used both the Sigil of Malice combined with the Mimic ability, just chunk Kassadar out, but thanks to Flyna rotating around to the middle lane, he's now going to feel a little bit safer. And this is something that we saw from TRC earlier on. They rotated their bottom lane round to the middle lane to try and take this mid tower as quickly as possible, but they are just going to keep Vizility up into the top lane, channel as much farm into him as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I like that decision when you're already ahead. Getting further ahead and trying to snowball it can be a good plan. And 45 CS to 35, that's a 10 lead for Vizility. We've got a big lead in the middle lane for Kassadar as well. So hopefully they can keep this one going. Finfin's got to be careful here, though. He is caught out between 3 people. Dipsy doesn't have too much damage just yet, though. So Finfin, with that hook, is going to be able to make some distance. He's got to be careful here, though. That's a nice return from Dipsy, but here's the rotate coming in from Tricked. Slemp, he's ignited. I don't know if he's going to be able to get away from this one. He manages with the potion to escape, and now Mood is here to back up. Kassadar, he's going to go down. First blood for Riddle. They're going to find Flyna as well. Double kill for Mood. Very well played by these guys to come out to a good start in Game 2.
So Riddle with the collapse down onto TRC. They thought that they had caught Slamp out of position. They thought that the Ignite would be enough to finish him off. It wasn't. They end up sticking around to try and finish off that kill, and TRC end up getting punished for it, giving 2 kills over Riddle in this early game, setting Riddle up for a much better early game than before.
Ooh, Mood, he might have over-aggressed here, though, trying to get the return on the Broxa, who is pretty low. Piercing Light finds it. Now Finfin, level 4 against Mood, level 6, trying to hunt down the kill. I don't know if he's got it. Kassadar has the package, though, coming in to back up. Mood still had Flash. He gets out of there. He's going to find that kill in a 1 versus 2.5. Based on when Kassadar arrived. Very well played by Riddle this game.
So Mood, we said that he may have just had the jitters in Game 1, but he has gotten them out of his system for Game 2 with a fantastic collapse initially, but then sticking around and going for a fight, getting a kill as well. Fantastic play coming out of him, but because he stayed too long, he's now not in a position to help defend this mid tower, and it is going to take a lot of damage from TRC.
Yeah, and a great spell shield from Vizility stops Zandia from really poking him off of the tower. He is going to mimic it in. He's going to ignite, actually, just to force Vizility back. That wasn't a kill pressure ignite. That was definitely a please stop hitting my turret ignite.
Please please leave my turret alone. Here, take this flower as a gesture of friendship. And Facility said, oh, that's lovely, thanks, I will take that. And he is going to end up backing away. So, well played there from Zania, able to hold that in a 1 versus 3. Right now, though, it does look like the TRC are going to set up for the Rift Herald. And we talked about it earlier, if Riddle had put a little bit more priority onto this, then maybe they could have gotten themselves a turret up in the top lane. But this is actually the first time that Riddle, they've gotten themselves the dragon, which I seem to have completely missed off. But off the back of that fight, they were able to pick that objective up. So this is a great start overall for Riddle as On the Hunt gets popped.
Yeah, Facility just trying to escape from Zandia's pressure there. Has to use the ultimate defensively, which is not an ideal situation for Tricked. But we'll see whether or not that comes back around to bite them later on. This is already, I mean, infinitely better from Riddle than last game. Because last game at around 40 minutes, we still didn't see a single tower, a single dragon. This time, they're doubling up on towers, and they've got a dragon.
And have a look at their vision control. They are doing really nicely. They have a lot more vision around the river this time, both in the top half and in the bottom half. And even in the bottom half, they push their vision up a little bit deeper so they can really read the movements coming out from TRC. And they have their own defensive pink wards in their half of the map. So such better play from Riddle. It seems their coach has done a lot as Flyner gets collapsed on.
He does, but the stun pop is not going to come through from concussive blows. And Khazadar actually has a lot of return damage onto Dipsy. Got to be careful about sticking around because although the vision is much better from Riddle, it isn't comprehensive in the middle lane. There could have been someone coming through. So smart play by Riddle to back away there, and now Tricked in a good position to keep up the siege.
They certainly are. They have the Rift Herald, the Baron empowered minions, and they are going to secure themselves their 3rd tower of the game, and that is actually going to equalize up the gold, and it's going to give a lot more freedom over the map for TRC. They can now start to push their vision line up a little bit deeper, but they're actually not doing that. And this is similar to what we saw in the last game. TRC, their actual early game vision control isn't that much. They're not using their vision very aggressively to set up plays. The fight seems to be kicking off in the middle lane.
Yeah, Mood and Facility both taking a decent chunk of damage there, but Zandia's got to be careful. He uses Mimic to get away from the Dredge line. Very well played by him. Very good reactions against Finfin. But Tricked, they're really putting pressure on grouping up and trying to force fights, which I quite like. I mean, Khazadar is pretty strong right now, even with just the Sheen. It's a bit earlier than maybe you'd want Facility. He's going to have to pop the heal there.
So I'm not entirely keen on what I'm seeing trinkets-wise. Dipsy, for some reason, is still holding on to his yellow trinket, which I feel he should swap out by the time you pick up Tracker's Knife. Hang on a second, we do see a bit of trading back and forth in the mid lane, but both teams, they're just going to back away from that one. But yeah, the trinkets right now, I feel like you should be investing in a couple of blue trinkets at this point in the game. Well, they are just about to hit level 9, which means that you would get that empowered blue trinket, but still, it's a very useful trinket to have. It provides that free vision all across the map, and at the very least, you would expect your AD carry to have it at this point. So it's not as efficient as it could be, and it gives you a lot more safer laning and transitioning, and it helps with setting up for deeper vision as well, so you can see where the enemy is and make these sort of plays, and taking objectives like this would be a lot safer, especially against flanks, if you had that deeper vision available to you.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Right now, Riddle, they finally decided to back away from the middle lane. They realize they're not going to be able to crack the defenses of Tricked just yet. They need to get to a point where Zandia is maybe able to one-shot someone in order to find that kill. And of course, Tricked earlier on taking that turret has put them in a decent position. They're only about 200, 300 gold in the lead, but every penny matters in this kind of a game where it was so close last time around for so long. Brock's trying to commit onto Dipsy there with an explosive cask. It was a little bit bold, a little bit over-eager.
He was like, want a drink? I'll trade it for a blue buff. And he gave him the drink anyway, and he was like, nah. It's a little bit BM by Dipsy, if we're being honest, not being able to trade that drink. But hang on a second, check the mid lane.
Lots of damage down onto Khazadar, but the problem is Zandia doesn't quite have enough to finish what he started there. Has got Ignite back up off cooldown though, if he wants to turn around, try and find that kill. And so they're just going to rotate Facility in, Khazadar out, swap it about to try and get the farm onto someone at least during this period of time where Khazadar can't really farm. Looking across the map as a whole, worth noting that Mood is sitting at 103 CS to Facility's 97. This is a far cry from what we saw last time.
Certainly was. Mood has most definitely stepped up in this game. It does feel like that it was just that first game jitters of playing on stage, not having that opportunity all day, as TRC were already warmed up after their semi-final game against Endurance, and Riddle really putting up a strong showing. Currently sitting on the gold lead, and they're posturing around the dragon. Both teams know that there's 15 seconds until this objective spawns, and TRC, throughout the day, have put a lot of emphasis on trying to secure these dragons, so it's very likely that they're looking for a fight right now.
Yeah, I think they'd like to secure themselves this first one as well to even things up with Riddle in the damage department. Obviously, as we move later and later, it's going to be worth more and more, and around 15 minutes is when a lot of these fights are going to start kicking off. Dipsy has something to say about this. So he's starting to rotate in, gets hooked up. Look at the damage. There's the package coming through, but Kassadar immediately needs to leave because Zandia has come in. Big AoE going down onto Tricked, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Finfin is doing so much work on the back line, just holding everyone from Riddle away from the fight. Ooh. Looks like Tricked are going to have to start backing away here, though. Kassadar might get engaged on that. Oh, was so close. Oh, man. Flyne tries to back it up, expecting that hook to land, but goes down as a result. Even still, Tricked pick up 2 kills for the 1 there.
Oh, very back and forth fight. Riddle not quite able to get some reliable target focus down. You could see Zandia came in from the flank, which is exactly what you want to be doing on that LeBlanc, but wasn't really able to get a full combo down, which meant that he couldn't chunk anyone out and force the fight to go in Riddle's favor. And it was very much a matter of both front lines trying to focus each other. Both were kind of struggling, but because of that Trinity Force spike, TRC was slightly coming out ahead. And the thing is, oh, hang on, the flank coming out from Finfin.
Oh, Finfin doing some serious work here. Brox actually has flash in order to get away as well, but Kassadar's got to be careful. Dipsy reinforcing from the turret is going to be forced back. Finfin still very healthy, of course, having used that teleport in from base. He is going to force Zandia away, and Trick managed to defend their turret, even in a situation where it looked pretty bad for them. So they basically traded a teleport for that.
So, great job coming out from TRC to get a little bit more out of that play overall, and it's very back and forth. You can see that the dragon is still alive, which demonstrates that Riddle are a lot more confident in setting up for these fights. They feel a lot more they feel a lot happier now that Mood is in a position where he can actually have more of an impact. All of the pressure isn't on top of Zandia. He can rely on Mood to have an impact in these fights.
So what I want to hear a little bit from you is Finfin's build, picking up the Quicksilver Sash here. I was a bit surprised by it at first, but in actuality, using it to deal with Braum stuns could really help him threaten the backline.
It's more to do with, oh, hang on a second, the dragon is being kicked off right now.
Yeah, you can see Tricked starting to come in here. Both teams just taking one side of the river to themselves. The blue team are going to secure that Trick, get the dragon.
Oh,
now
he's
Dipsy
gone.
Engaged on immediately. Mood not in the best position to deal damage here. He's in the 1-versus-1 with Kassadar on the side. Azes does get a very nice ultimate off, but is it going to be enough? There's Zandia jumping across. Whoa. He finds a double kill there along with Slemp, and they get a triple kill onto Slemp as well. Big fight for Riddle. That actually turned around very quickly. Finfin still alive, but he's got to be careful right now about being hunted down. He's maybe expecting the engagement there from Asses. He's going to be able to back away.
So, Riddle are actually coming out ahead in these fights. They end up losing the dragon. Dipsy is the primary focus, but suddenly it shifts because very little concentrated effort comes down into trying to shut Mood down. You saw Finfin sitting on the backline zoning Mood away, which is a great thing to do again for this TRC lineup because a lot of the damage is coming out from Mood, but Zandia was able to set up so much damage because Slemp would not die. He is so tanky with the Subjugate, and speaking of Slemp,
yeah, that Pillar of Ice actually puts Slemp in a bit of a dicey position. Broxa keeping this chase going, finds the slow, lots of damage as well, actually. They managed to get the shutdown, goes on a flying though. Now Dipsy in a bad spot, trying to help out. Might have done more damage than good, as he is likely going to go down here as well. Oh no, he might actually be able to get away, just barely escaping. Broxa hunts it down, but dies as a result. Over aggression, over eagerness from these teams.
And it was from both sides. Slemp got greedy. He wanted to try and take away the blue buff for himself. He ends up getting punished, but Flyner has to use his flash to guarantee that kill. And then Broxa still feels that he can chase down onto Dipsy, and he ends up paying for it with his life. Broxa should have just backed away, should have been happy with that objective, and they should have used that as an opportunity to take away the Rift Herald. They didn't. They end up trading 1-for-1, and the game returns to neutrality.
All right, so looking at the gold right now, it's worth noting that Riddle do have a lead. They are almost 2,000 in the lead, which, again, far cry from last game, right? But the thing is that Tricked, they're not falling so far behind that they necessarily need to be that worried in these 5-versus-5 fights, so long as they can get onto the right targets. They're also doing a great job of controlling a lot of the objectives on the map, going for the Rift Herald right now. It's a very close game, Dedius.
certainly is. Riddle putting up much more of a fight than they were able to last game, and the amount of confidence that was coming in from TRC earlier. Ooh, Dipsy getting caught up.
Yeah, he's going to be explosive cast, but it's actually going to send him the wrong way. Now Axe is going to be the main target. He does not have a chance in anywhere of getting out of that one. And it looks like Trick will be able to secure that off the back of the Rift Herald. Very nice work by them. What can they do with it, though?
Well, this is the pick potential that you have when running a Sivir. The On the Hunt combined with the Alistar engage and the damage coming out from Kassadar at this mid-game point. Speaking of Kassadar,
Flying trying to tank that one up. Pops his ultimate a little bit late, takes a lot of damage as a result. Now Zandia's on the hump, but he misses his Distortion Mimic. That is bad news for Riddle, but Flying still going down in the middle lane. Finfin in the thick of things, trying to 1 versus 3 right now with Zandia coming back in. Finfin gets 1 kill, he flashes away, but he goes down. Tricked, they trade pretty evenly there, but they might lose a turret.
Slemp is doing so much work on this Trundle, going for the very early Titanic Hydra. Roxa might be looking to set up a flank, but I don't know if he can 1v3 this.
Yeah, it doesn't have the explosive cask. That's a big cooldown to be missing. He's taking so much damage, goes down immediately to Mood. I don't know why he went in there. Now I've got Kassadar with the package coming across. Kassadar. He finds one, he might get 2. Mood just barely getting away. But a double kill for Kassadar, saves the turret, and mitigates a lot of the damage done by that fight.
Kassadar, the savior of that fight overall, swinging his massive package around and being able to turn the fight around to get himself 2 kills, almost 3. If he was able to get that shutdown onto Mood, it would have been absolutely fantastic for TRC. But he is able to defend the turret, but big misplays coming out from TRC overall. We could see Flyna getting caught out by Slem. Then TRC tried to stick around Finfin. You could see he was in the middle of 3 members. And even though he's able to get the kill onto Dipsy, he sacrifices his life as well as his flash to set up for that play. And then Broxah going for the 1v3 without any support, especially from Kassadar. He ends up paying for it with his life. So it ends up being a 3-for-2 overall, going in the favor of Riddle.
All right, the gold lead has actually closed a little bit, though. Even off the back of these great fights for Riddle, we're now seeing it closer to 1.5k when it was nearer to 2 earlier on. Riddle, they've got a lot of map pressure right now. They've got the ability to maybe go clear out these pink wards, get some vision of their own near the Baron, and threaten to take that objective sometime soon.
So this is the big difference between Riddle in Game 2 compared to Riddle in Game 1. They were pretty much being pushed around the map. They weren't able to control any vision, and they weren't entirely sure of their win conditions and how they were able to find advantages in Game 1. But this time, they realized how important vision is to set up Zandia for flanks. They realized that as long as they can play around Mood and keep him alive, there is no reason why they can't come out ahead in these team fights. And Slemp just doing such a great job of taking away all these tank stats from Finfin and basically making the front line so much squishier means that Riddle are just playing out of their minds in this second game. It is such a step up from their performance, and it'll be interesting to see how they develop throughout the series.
Yeah, that is very, very true. I mean, if Trick were to win this one, guys, we've only had 1 game so far, although it was a very long one, they would be in a position where 1 more win would take them to finals, give them that Challenger Series promotion spot, which I'm sure they would very badly like. But Riddle, on the flip side, need to win 3 more games in this set. This is only the beginning for them, and it's going to be a tough uphill battle to keep things going. Right now, looking at some of the items, some of the gold distribution across the map, Mood, I want to highlight him. He's about 30 CS over Visibility, which is, I mean, massively different than last game. Plus, he's 6-0. He hasn't even died yet.
It's literally the opposite of last game, isn't it? Where Visibility was the hyper carry in Game 1, and pretty much all TRC had to do was play around him. And now Game 2, Mood is the hyper carry. He's 6-0-5, completed both the Essence Reaver and the Rapid Fire Cannon. Pretty much just strong. Is a fantastically strong point at this point in the game, especially. Working towards what looks like, I would imagine, the Lord Dominic's Regard. And he is in a fantastic spot. It's nice to see how much Mood has changed over this these first 2 games.
You could say that Riddle is capricious because their mood changes.
What?
Capricious.
Capricious?
Capricious.
Is that a color?
No, it's a word. It means someone whose mood changes at a whim.
Oh.
And Mood has gone from performing very badly to very well.
I see. Well, today I learned.
It's not good if you make me explain it. Just pretend you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, totally. Dragon goes over to Riddle.
Yeah, but Dipsy gets hooked yet again. At the beginning of these fights, he always gets locked up. A massive knock-up coming in from Riddle. Zandia, he's forced out of the fight. Mood is in a very good position, but is it going to be enough? I mean, everyone that's supporting him has gone down. Dipsy, he's got a flash away. Cassadar wants to go on the hunt for this one, and a great missile actually picks up the kill on Zandia too. Dipsy, he's going to go down. He can't find the return onto Flyne, and Mood is in a very bad position as well. He's going to be trying to get out of here. I don't know if he's going to be able to, though. Maybe he can get some return kills, though. He's still very, very healthy. He's actually life-stealing a little bit here as well. Every single member of Trick coming in trying to get the kills. Facility burns that spell shield. He might go down here. He does, but you can see the kill coming from Cassadar. That is all 5 members picked up by Tricked, and they're actually in the gold lead for the first time this game.
Mood is doing his very best to carry this game, but it is so difficult for him. Flyner made the game-changing play where he got a 3-man headbutt pulverized. The exhaust from Cassadar to Zandia denied him the ability to pick anyone off, and it was simply a matter of focusing down the front line and preventing Mood from really being able to get involved. The QSS was also massive because it removed the subjugate from Slemp, which meant that Finfin could get back his tanky stats, and it just made Mood's life so much more difficult. Follow that up from the ultimate from Finfin meant that Mood just couldn't get involved in the fight, and TSC are starting to realize, let's just deny Mood as much as possible, shut down the front line, and then clean him up afterwards. But they have to respect his damage, because he, even in a 1v5, he gets a return kill. So Riddle, they get 1 kill, they get the Dragon, but slowly you can start to see TRC coming back into this game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the gold lead is great for them, of course, but it's not entirely on everyone they would like it to be. I mean, a lot of the money's on Finfin right now. 5-1-4, incredibly good performance this game. But of course, I feel like maybe Trick would rather have that money on Visibility so that he can be doing some good damage. Thankfully, Cassadar's in a good position. Gonna have to package away, though, from Slemp, who's putting some pressure down on the sideline.
He does still have Subjugate available. Didn't decide to use that in the trade against Cassadar. And right now, the game is returning to a little bit more of a stalemate. Neither team wants to give away any major objectives. Dragons are in favor of Riddle, and that objective isn't going to be picked up for a while. It looks like pings. I think TRC want to fight.
Yeah, Broxa, he's moving in here along with Cassadar. Axes is going to block a lot of that damage, but Dipsy, got to be careful here. We've got the teleport coming in back from Slemp now. They want to turn this fight around. Zandia has a good flank position, but he can't get on to Visibility. Now Axes, he's going to use the ultimate. Zandia goes down to Visibility, and Cassadar manages to get away. This could be bad for Riddle. Brox is still very healthy, along with Finfin jumping onto the front line, takes down Dipsy, and now Slemp has no easy way out of this fight. He's going to have to run back to his turret, try and get away, but the damage is massive. He has flash, able to get away. Mood, he trades his life again for Visibility. This time, I definitely don't think it was worth it. Encourages Slump to go back in. He goes down. Tricked, managed to find a 4-for-1. Huge team fight victory for them.
And the way they won that fight was all about concentrating on Zandia, because Zandia tried to come in from the flank, which is exactly what you want to be doing on this LeBlanc, but TRC read it so well. They were prepared for that flank engage. They knew that they didn't have the exhaust available to them, and they shut Zandia down. Combine that with Slemp, not a great teleport coming in, means that TRC were able to shut down a lot of the damage from Riddle, and they come out ahead in the team fight, and now they're going for the Baron.
They are very low on 3 members, though. They've got to be careful. Axis doesn't have any mana, but Zandia's coming through here. A big distortion could make a huge fight, but he gets exhausted immediately after going in. Tricked. They managed to get the Baron. They find Zandia as well. Axis, he's going to get away with his life, but Cassadar and the other members of Tricked got to feel good about that exchange. They have somehow, I mean, in the last few minutes, basically, made significant gains over Riddle.
They certainly have. I really want to give credit to Flyner right there. He's just, again, he read Zandia like a book. He knows exactly what Zandia is trying to do. You can see all the vision on these flanks, and there, look at the value of this blue trinket. Sitting at that back bush allowed so much control of where Zandia was trying to go. They knew exactly what he was trying to do. Flyner set that up so perfectly, and he saw it once again when trying to steal the Baron pit. I feel like he was a little bit too late with the actual engage. He wouldn't have been able to steal it anyway, but the fact that Flyner was able to get another kill off the back of that is going to solidify TRC's gold lead, and now they're going to look to try and crack the base of Riddle.
Yeah, they already did a bit of damage to this mid lane turret earlier on. It's going to drop extremely fast. Dragon's up in a minute, so Trick have a bit of time to work with right now. They can take some more of the turrets in the side lanes. Perhaps heading up top would be a good plan. Finfin has teleport, can join them if they do so, and he's putting a lot of pressure in the bottom lane as it currently stands. So Tricked in a great position right now to start snowballing things out of control. Riddle, they need to collect themselves, regain their composure, because earlier on they were playing so well and try and come back into this game.
They need to regain at least some vision, because the only way they're going to be able to come out ahead in a fight is if they somehow get a pick onto Kassadar or Facility, and they're only going to do that with a flank or just Slemp running at them.
Yeah, Flyna is the main target here, but he's extremely tanky by virtue of being that Alistar, having Unbreakable Will at his disposal. You can see a decent amount of things used by Riddle there, doesn't get them anything. Finfin in the bot lane takes a turret too. I mean, that engagement was completely shut down. Now Kassadar gonna be the next target, but look at the turnaround from Flyna. He gets a massive knockup. Zandia immediately goes down to Kassadar. Slemps on the front line, but having no impact, whereas Finfin is controlling the pace of this fight. Dipsy is gonna get the return kill with Mood onto Broxa, but Kassadar is on the hunt. He smells blood. He wants to make Mood very upset, but he's going to be able to get out of there. Even still, another turret for the side of Tricked. They might go for more too.
I think they can take an inhibitor right now. They have the Baron empowered minions. They have 280 carries available to them. Only Dipsy is left to really wave clear, and I don't think that's going to be enough. TRC should be able to secure an inhibitor right now.
Yeah, you can see Mood joining up with Dipsy here, is trying to defend, but it is tough for them to do so. Kassadar, meanwhile, taking a turret in the middle lane. I think if he joined them, the inhibitor definitely would have gone down, but they prioritized getting 2 turrets instead. It's arguable whether or not that's actually too much worse, because if they win another fight, they're going to get both instantly.
They're probably going to get themselves 3 inhibitors and end the game if they're able to win another big team fight like that. And let's have a look back at that team fight. The big problem for Slemp was he wanted to try and get a bit of an engage down, and the front line was Flyna. It's so difficult to get past this Alistar. And Slemp didn't want to use his Subjugate onto that Alistar, so he held onto it, which resulted in him taking a lot of damage as he was running towards Tricked. So when they backed off and Riddle tried to re-engage, they had no tanky front line. Zandia tried to come in from the flank. Once again, Broxa read it like a book, and he intercepted. They shut down Zandia, and then it was simply a matter of cleanup from the rest of the fight. It's TRC understanding exactly how they need to play these fights. Be aware of the flank from Zandia. Just keep poking down and keep Slemp at a distance. Prevent him from being that tanky menace that just sits on your face. And as long as they do those 2 things, they're able to come out ahead.
All right, Tricked. Now they're looking towards this middle lane push.
Package.
Obviously, the turret already down, so the inhibitor is exposed. Kassadar has the package, too. I mean, basically everything Tricked could want is available to them right now. The question is, can Riddle find a good counter engagement? Slemp is looking for it right now, but look at the damage. Kassadar, he's going so deep with that package, but he actually might go down here. Akaz finds the kill. On the flip side, Zandia falls, but Facility trades. This fight is going Tricked's way, but only marginally. I mean, Dipsy, he's now out of mana, Flash out of Finfin, gonna lock him up just a little bit, and they're letting the minions do the work for them. They're basically just running interference as a 5-man stack for the NPCs of the game.
So both mid laners and AD carries fell down in that fight, and it was once again Kassadar over-aggressing. He dived straight into the backline. Yes, his engage was very flashy, but it was very unnecessary. He didn't need to make that kind of a play. He gets stunned up by the Braum. He ends up dying to the Ignite at the end, and Facility is left to be the primary damage dealer. He ends up going in a 1 versus 1 against Mood, and they actually kill each other, which is very surprising given how far behind Facility actually was to Mood at the time, but it demonstrates his ability as an AD carry. So we then had that wet noodle fight where you had all of the tanks just slapping each other, but TRC were able to guarantee themselves the inhibitor in the middle lane, and it's very likely that with the Baron coming up in 2 minutes, that's going to be their next target focus.
All right, so Tricked, Kassadar is going to be picking up the blue right now. Baron, as you said, coming up very soon. There's a limited number of options for how Tricked want to play this, though, and maybe Riddle, in the downtime, can get up some vision to deal with that. For example, Tricked, they might force top inhibitor. It's easy to rotate back to Baron from up there because it's so close. They also could go bot lane with the hopes of taking the inhibitor and forcing Baron more easily later on. But we know that they're not going to go mid, right? So just get some wards down, make sure you know what Tricked can do and how you're going to stop it.
Exactly that. They really need to try and set up some vision in their top half of the jungle so they can at least potentially contest the Baron. But it looks like TRC, they don't even care about the Baron right now. There's a minute until it spawns. They'd much rather just guarantee themselves the top lane inhibitor, and that's going to set them up for success when trying to contest for this Baron. So they're in a great position to do it. They have the Sivir for the engage. Flyna's Flash just came up. Let's see if TRC can get the fight they want.
All right, well, we've got some good wave clear right off the bat from Dipsy. Kassadar struggling to get in a position here as well, but Finfin takes no damage on the front line has obviously got the ability to shield himself very frequently. Axes might be looking for that ultimate sometime soon. Doesn't find it though, and Tricked, they're going to take that inhibitor uncontested. Now they're going for the turnaround fight. Atkins, he might not even be able to get his ultimate off. Mood on the backline, initiated on Broxa, finds it, flashes away, survives. Riddle are falling apart right now. Tricked should be able to close the game up off the back of this fight, potentially, unless Zandia can make something happen. He is starting to rotate in, but look at the damage from Castar. He's wiping everyone out. Broxa comes back in. Zandia falls. It's the ace for Tricked, and they're going to take this game too. Very hard fought. Riddle looked way better than game 1, but now their backs are against the wall. They need to win game 3.
They certainly do. TRC with a commanding performance towards the end, and they're able to guarantee themselves the second game. GG well played to TRC, but there's still one game left for TRC to win if they want to take home the Ragnarok axe.
All right, so that game, obviously Riddle did play a lot better than they have previously.
Definitely.
They had great vision control, which is something I have not been able to say so far in the tournament. They also had some really strong map rotations and picks off the back of that. But they bit off a bit more than they could chew a few times towards the later stages of the game. And I also want to say that Fin, for me, was the real hero of Tricked because he kept his team in the game. I mean, early on, I think he was 3-0, something like that. And that gave them the time they needed to get strong again.
So going for that early QSS worked very heavily in his favor because the subjugate from the Trundle was used quite regularly on him. And because of that, it was allowing Mood to shut him down so much quicker because Fin was always going for the backline. He realized that Mood was the big problem. So by using the QSS and getting his defensive stats back, it made it so much harder for Mood in these mid-game team fights. And by denying Mood entry into these engagements, it just set up TRC for success. But for me, TRC's big playmaker was Flyner. So many times he got multi-man headbutts off, which really set the team up for success and guaranteed them victory. It was just phenomenal play coming out from Flyner. I was really impressed with how much he impacted that game.
All right, so like we were saying earlier on, guys, Tricked, they only need one more victory to take home the Ragnarok axe. That's going to be absolutely awesome if they can pull it off. But on the flip side, you know, we really need to see some digging deep coming through from Riddle if they want to pull this one back. They've got to win 3 straight games, pull off a reverse sweep. It's going to be difficult. To hear how they might do it, how that game went, we're going to pass back to our analysts.
The analyst desk, we're just going to hop right in, and I think the big thing to talk about to start is, of course, the draft much improved from Riddle this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Riddle played a great start of the game and middle, but my problem is they're not very decisive. So they go with a team comp, they know what it does, they play it sort of well, and then all of a sudden, they don't really know how to follow up on it, how to capitalize, and how to take the win, and they allow the enemy team to make a comeback.
Yeah, they didn't really have the initiation tools in this game. They had a lot of strong early game champions. They had winning lanes in several of the lanes, but they didn't really have the clear game plan, so that they weren't really sure what they were going to go for. And when Tricked, they're controlling dragons, they're controlling vision, Riddle just has to make something happen and weren't really able to in that game.
Yeah, and I think the pick focus is something we talked about in Game 1. Game 2, especially early on, it didn't really change. It was then that the vision seemed to improve from both sides.
Yeah, so the vision obviously is very important, but you really need to capitalize on it as well. So when you have vision of your enemy, you need to decide for a strategy that really capitalizes on it. And I'm not really sure that Riddle did that. They got some picks, they got some objectives, and then they sort of start to fall back again. Meanwhile, Tricked instead already used every single time they had some sort of position advantage. They used it, they went in for it. The only time they actually got caught was when they didn't have vision and they just pulled out way too far.
Yeah, they did have the LeBlanc, so they could have been trying to make more picks happen with the LeBlanc, because it's a champion that we've seen Zandion earlier in the tournament be very confident on. Didn't make that much happen as they would have been hoping with the LeBlanc versus Corki in the mid lane. So in the end, Tricked was able to come out on top. But what I really love about Tricked here is that they show that it's just anyone can carry on the team. It doesn't have to be just one star player every game. Last game, Vicinity really stepped up, did a huge amount of damage. And this game, I mean, Vicinity didn't really contribute that much, but of course he was playing the Civis, so he had the underhunt to still do something useful for the team.
Of course, they weren't always winning, as we've said. They had their carries doing okay, but especially early on, we saw a lot of overcommittals, and we saw, especially if you look at things like just chasing down kills that they thought they had, and then suddenly they find themselves caught out.
So I guess I would say that I think Brox are looking a little bit awkward on his Gragas. Gragas is a great pick, it's a great champion. It's quite easy and straightforward to just go ahead with a body slam, you hit it, you land your casket, everything is fine. But a lot of times we saw him overcommitting, not really knowing his strengths and weaknesses, and we also saw him miss a lot of explosive casks in situations where it was absolutely crucial that he hit them. So not too sure about that pick, and I would like to see some small changes to that.
Yeah, and Tricked playing with a lot of confidence, perhaps too much confidence in certain situations, just overcommitting and chasing when it wasn't needed. So I think if Tricked are supposed to take clean sweep this 3-0, I think they need to think that better safe than sorry.
We will say, though, that they did manage to turn it around. The big point of turning was definitely that dragon fight ace. So what do you think led to it, and how do you think they capitalized on it?
It was kind of surprising that it went so well for Tricked, in my opinion, because Mood was playing Lucian with an early cull and got 3 early kills, so you were expecting Mood to be absolutely huge in that game, in that team fight. But Finfin on the Nautilus just came in and was, I mean, he was just standing on top of everyone, tanking it up, using the Riptide to just crowd control everybody and keep them in check. So Finfin really the MVP in that fight for me, and Tricked were able to just take, I think they even got an ace there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was Floyna. It's all about the Alistar, because when you play Alistar, you only got one really important ability for team fights, and that's your Pulverize. You really need to hit the headbutt Pulverize or just a Pulverize, and every single fight, almost every single fight at least, he got at least 3-man knockups. Sometimes, I think it was even 4 or 5 at one point. He was absolutely crazy with Alistar. He had the positioning that could allow him to do it, and of course a little bit of miss micro coming from Riddle to allow him to do that, standing so close together.
Yeah, so we definitely saw Riddle pull it a lot closer this game. How do you think they can pull it not just close, but actually pull out a win, come in for this game 3 where they really need to?
I'm looking for Sanya to step up in the mid lane. He is perhaps the star player of Riddle. He's been playing some very intense assassins now, Zed and LeBlanc in the first 2 games, but not been able to make it work in such a way that you need to in order to take the game from such a good team as Tricked. So I want Sanya to go on a comfort champion, and I want him to really step up.
I mean, if they want Sanya to carry these games, and he absolutely has potential to do that, they need to build a team comp around that objective, because right now it's Sanya trying to carry the game, and the rest of the team try to do something, and then they try to group instead, and Sanya is left in a really awkward position trying to flank versus a team with great vision. It's absolutely impossible for him. So the early game is great for Riddle. They got a great plan how this should work out. But when it comes to the team fight, when it comes to strategic decisions for late game, Sanya is sort of left out. He's not even in the equation anymore. So they're basically playing 4 versus 5, to put it bluntly, because of Sanya's way to play and the champions that he plays, and how it just does not work very well with the rest of his team.
We'll see if they can make it work coming into this game 3, as we are going to give you a little bit of a short break as we prepare for it, and we'll see if Riddle can turn it around. See you then.